Thank you very much. Good morning from Delhi and welcome to the webinar seminar on connectivity cooperation for a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, building economic resilience through enhanced connectivity, organized by RIS, jointly with Ministry of External Affairs and Embassy of Japan in India. Today's webinar the second edition. And if you recall, we started this connectivity dialogue last year in March 2021 in recognition of the emergence of the Indo-Pacific, MEA, Government of India, in partnerships with Embassy of Japan, RIS, started this dialogue on the connectivity pillar of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, in short, IPOI, and free and open Indo-Pacific. We organized the first seminar last year, and objective was the first one of this series was to explore how Japan can contribute as the lead nation for the connectivity pillar of the IPOI, focusing on connectivity projects and the needs for the rules-based efforts. Today's webinar, the second one, will expand on the previous forum, the focus on connectivity as a way to enhance economic resilience in the region in cooperation with other partners in the Pacific. Friends, you know, Indo-Pacific is a multipolar region with the geographical coverage in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, a free, open, and inclusive Pacific that is founded upon a cooperative and collaborative rules-based order is in the interest of all the countries in the region and beyond. Indo-Pacific in 2019, and India came out with Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, in short IPOI, in 2019. IPOI has 7 pillars, and we focus on the 7th pillar, trade connectivity and maritime transport. Japan is the lead nation for the connectivity pillar of IPOI. India and Japan believe that their development cooperation in the Indo-Pacific can contribute to unlocking the potential for an equitable, positive, and forward-looking change in the region and contribute to socio-economic development of Southeast Asia, Africa, and island nations in Indian and Pacific Oceans. Both Japan and India have agreed to strengthen the collaborative actions to promote the Indo-Pacific through 7th pillar of IPOI. India's prowess in digital technology, coupled with Japan's expanded partnership for quality infrastructure initiative, will facilitate an effective, inclusive implementation of the connectivity pillar of IPOI. Today's seminar consists of 3 parts. The inaugural session will set tone for the seminar by sharing how Japan and India connectivity partnerships under the IPOI has evolved, and economic resilience has become an important part of the discussion of enhancing connectivity through bilateral cooperation as well as partnerships in the Quad and with ASEAN. We have today 2 technical sessions. Session 1 for quality infrastructure and economic resilience. The session will focus on how infrastructure can enhance economic resilience of a country or a region. Second session on digital connectivity. This will discuss the country's experiences with digital technology in promoting connectivity, including best practices. We have a stellar panel, both in the inaugural and other sessions. I have to tell you, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, Director General RIS, won't be able to make the first session in the morning session because of his preoccupation. But he expresses best wishes and thanks all the speakers, the dignitaries, and the participants for their participations. With this, and on behalf of all the organizers, I welcome you to today's seminar. Let me invite our chairman, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, for his opening remarks. Sir, over to you, Ambassador Kumar. Ambassador Kumar will be joining, he's traveling back to office, so can you hear us, sir? I think there is some technical issue. Anyway, if he comes back, then we'll go to him for his remarks. So let me invite His Excellency Mr. Satoshi Suzuki, the Ambassador of Extraordinary and Philanthropy, Embassy of Japan, to give the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prabir-san. His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar, Chairman of the IRS, His Excellency Ambassador Sabral Kumar, Secretary East of the Ministry of External Affairs, distinguished participants from India, Japan, and all across the Indo-Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar, good morning, good afternoon, selamat siang, konnichiwa. It's my great pleasure to address you all today in this seminar. The Embassy Japan is honored to co-host this seminar with the Ministry of External Affairs of India. I'd like to thank the RIS for organizing this seminar and bringing experts together from various governments, government-related agencies, research institutions, as well as businesses. I'm also delighted to welcome experts from ASEAN, the important partner in the Indo-Pacific. On 19th of March, Prime Minister Kishida of Japan made an official visit to India to have a summit meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. It was Prime Minister Kishida's first bilateral foreign visit since he took office last October, which demonstrates the significance Prime Minister Kishida attaches to India. After his successful visit to India, Prime Minister Kishida flew to Cambodia, the ASEAN chair for this year. I believe this is a befitting example of Japan's appreciation of India and ASEAN as principal partners for promoting its Indo-Pacific vision. Mr. Kishida's visit to India was an excellent opportunity to review developments in bilateral cooperation in wide-ranging areas and chart its future course. They reaffirmed their commitment to the shared vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, free from coercion. The joint statement issued after the summit meeting made it very clear that prime ministers acknowledged the growing space for cooperation between India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative and Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific. It also emphasized the collaboration in building resilient supply chains and strengthening the protection of critical infrastructure. This is one of the key areas for ongoing Japan-India collaboration. And on that note, I'd like to move on to speak about context in which we convene this seminar today. At the East Asia Summit in 2019, Prime Minister Modi unveiled this IPOI as a cooperative framework that translates principles of the Indo-Pacific into concrete actions. Japan welcomed this IPOI as being congruent with its vision of free and open Indo-Pacific, guided by such values as democracy, rules of law, freedom of navigation, free trade, and economic prosperity, among others. Based on this shared vision of the Indo-Pacific, Japan agreed to undertake a lead country role for the connectivity pillar of the IPOI. This IPOI enjoys wide support of other partners such as Indonesia, Australia, and France as lead countries of other important pillars. In discharging our responsibility as lead country, the Embassy of Japan hosted the first seminar on connectivity cooperation under the IPOI in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs in March last year. The agenda of the previous meeting was to analyze infrastructure projects in India as well as in neighboring countries and to deliberate upon the ways to enhance connectivity in the region based on our shared principles. To build upon our discussions at the previous seminar and take it forward, we added one perspective to today's theme, that is, building economic resilience through enhanced connectivity. It is essential that we build infrastructure in a way that improves resilience of the region and brings about prosperity to all partners in the Indo-Pacific. During the pandemic, countries have experienced a series of disruptions in global supply chains, including those of medical equipment, semiconductors, and critical materials for manufacturing high-tech products. Excessive reliance on a single country, be it in trade or infrastructure investment, makes nations extremely vulnerable to economic coercion. We also witnessed instances where inadequate infrastructure led to the aggravation of problems such as inability to prevent or mitigate natural disasters and reliance on external debts beyond repayment capacity. It even undermined the autonomous decision-making in some countries. So these challenges have taught us an important lesson: to design and enhance connectivity through identifying reliable partners who share common values, principles, and strategic interests. Japan, together with India, has worked to enhance connectivity in many ways, from building hard and soft infrastructure to establishing regional frameworks for dialogue and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Japan is working with partners in many places, such as India's northeastern region, the Bay of Bengal, and Mekong region. We aim at providing these regions with reliable alternatives so that countries can pursue robust and self-reliant economic growth free from concerns of economic pressure or coercion. Today, we will also discuss digital connectivity. When it comes to economic security, digital infrastructure has come to the center of policy discussions on connectivity. Secure and reliable digital technologies such as 5G and 6G, submarine cables, and artificial intelligence are indispensable infrastructure for further economic development of the Indo-Pacific. I believe Japan and India, as trusted partners, should collaborate in both the public and private sectors in this field. In addition, the two countries are also exploring ways to make full use of India's digital talents. This view is reflected in the Japan-India Digital Partnership launched in 2018. Furthermore, Japan and India signed a memorandum of cooperation in the field of cybersecurity at the recent summit meeting to promote collaboration in such areas as information sharing, capacity building, as well as research and development. I believe that two countries must develop digital infrastructure that would not succumb to any attempts to undermine our principles or to use digital platforms for illicit purposes, while upholding freedom, openness, and transparency. Japan has been accelerating its efforts to take various measures for bolstering economic security in line with this viewpoint. Just last month, the government of Japan has submitted the new bill, to the parliament for approval to tighten Japan's economic security. This legislation includes such elements as safeguarding key infrastructure from cybersecurity risks and augmenting research and development programs on critical and emerging structure by involving both public and private sectors. The cooperation in this area is also progressing within the Quad framework. Since 2015, the four countries have provided more than 48 billion US dollars in official financing for infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific region, which represents thousands of projects across more than 30 countries. The Quad Infrastructure Coordination Group aims at further advancing our complementarity in the infrastructure development, along with other Quad groups working to deepen cooperation on cybersecurity and critical and emerging technologies, including digital technologies. Japan believes that improved connectivity will bring prosperity and resilience to all the countries of the Indo-Pacific. With the support of India as well as partners from ASEAN and other Indo-Pacific countries, Japan will continue to lead the region toward a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. In closing, I wish this seminar all the success, and I look forward to hearing valuable insight and input from all the participants today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, Excellency. Thank you very much. May I now move into our RIS Chairman, Ambassador Mohan Kumar. Sir, we can see you. The voice is clear. Will you be like to take the call, sir?
Thank you very much, Prabir. Can you hear me?
Yes, pretty clear, sir.
Thank you. Let me begin by apologizing, not just you, also to the Japanese ambassador and our friends from MEA. It's one of those things, there was an emergency, so I'm speaking from a car, for which I apologize very profusely, especially to the Japanese ambassador. I was listening very carefully to him, and he's made some substantive points, which I think will set the tone for this seminar. I will be brief before asking our friends from MEA to speak. Speaking for RIS, I believe the support of Japan for this seminar is critical, and it's absolutely vital that we get our Japanese friends on board. The presence of the Japanese ambassador at today's seminar is illustrative of the importance attached by Japan to a free and open Indo-Pacific. I am personally convinced that without Japan's support, it is not possible to have a free and open Indo-Pacific, especially in the area of infrastructure. And that is where I wish to make a couple of points, with your permission. One, I think we've all subscribed to the G20 principles of transparency and good principles on infrastructure. And it's very important that we subscribe largely to the G20 principles when we implement infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific. That's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I would like to make is, in the context of Quad, we are doing a lot of infrastructure when it comes to climate change and critical technologies. These are the two working groups which have been set up. I think 3 working groups have been set up under the Quad, but these two are very important for infrastructure. I'm therefore particularly happy, Prabir, that your conference is going to deal with 2 sessions, one on sustainable development, the other on digital connectivity. In terms of sustainable development infrastructure, I wish to emphasize both adaptation and mitigation. There is a tendency to look only at mitigation, which is the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that infrastructure emits. I personally think for the Indo-Pacific countries, resilient infrastructure is as important. And this must not be overlooked in your session dealing with infrastructure. On digital infrastructure, we have worked very closely with our Japanese friends. There is something called the Osaka track, which I'm sure everybody participating in G20 will be aware of. We have some differences when it comes to data localization and when it comes to privacy, and we have a bill pending in our parliament. But I believe very important objectives can be served by having a session on digital infrastructure, which can bring India's position much closer to Japan and to our friends in the West. It is my conviction that Japan and India can try to do something in digital infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific region, which can serve as a gold standard for this region. Because we are a great IT power, we use a lot of technology, and Japan possesses extremely cutting edge technology in this area. So, between the producer of technology that Japan is and the user of technology that India is, there can be a tremendous marriage. And this is something that we should be talking about. So, all in all, I want to compliment you, Prabir, for this initiative. I wish to thank the support that we have always received from the Japanese embassy and the Ministry of External Affairs. The Japanese ambassador's presence, as I said earlier, is important. I want to thank His Excellency for the time, and I wish to thank our friends from MEA for the unstinting support that RAS has received, and especially the ASEAN India Center. Once again, my profound apologies for not appearing better and in time, and I wish to really congratulate you and your colleagues, and also wish the conference every success it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Excellent speech, very illuminating speech, and setting the tone for today's seminar. And thank you once again. Having such difficulties while traveling, you could manage to log in and share your perspective. Thank you. We go on, and let me now invite Ambassador Saurabh Kumar, the Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs, the Government of India, for the keynote address. But Ambassador Kumar won't be able to make it because of his urgent commitment somewhere at the very last moment. So we invite the Joint Secretary, Ms. Geetika Srivastava, for his keynote address, for her keynote address, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabirji. Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, a very good afternoon to wherever you are. Let me start by saying that Secretary East could not attend this webinar. He was looking forward to it. However, because of some urgent meeting for which he has been called, and I today will be reading his keynote address on his behalf. I would like to start by saying that it's my honor to deliver this address at the inaugural of the seminar titled Connectivity Cooperation for a Free, Open and Inclusive Indo-Pacific, Building Economic Resilience Through Enhanced Connectivity. I welcome Japan's initiative to continue the workshop series under its IPOI lead on connectivity. I also congratulate the RIS New Delhi for their valuable contribution towards this event. Ladies and gentlemen, Minister Jaishankar has said economic growth is universally driven by 3 C's: connectivity, commerce, and contact. Connectivity acquires a particular salience in the context of post-COVID economic recovery. It is by itself an economic multiplier. There is a widespread realization of a need now for more resilient and reliable supply chain. This is not just a matter of production, it is equally a challenge of efficient logistics. We need more and multiple options, and this applies to the domain of connectivity most of all. While expanding connectivity, we need to address not just physical infrastructure, but also its accompanying facets, including economic and commercial connectivity, digital connectivity, and people-to-people links. Tourism and societal contact can create a fostering and enabling environment. The shift in the fulcrum of economic growth towards Indo-Pacific is creating unprecedented opportunities for connectivity in the region. There is a huge infrastructure deficit in the region which needs to be met to fulfill the growing aspirations of the people. It goes without saying that connectivity projects must conform to international norms. Respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is fundamental, as is also the economic viability and financial responsibility. Infrastructure created should promote economic activity and not debt burden. Conforming to ecological environmental standard is imperative, as is the transfer of skill and technology. Processes must be consultative, transparent, and participatory. They should promote trade and not tension. The above needs emphasis since projects have been undertaken by some which violate these desired objectives. India is undertaking a number of connectivity initiatives, both nationally and regionally, under this overall vision, mindful of these principles. At home, some of our major connectivity initiatives include projects such as Bharatmala and Sagarmala, dedicated freight corridors, and Indian logistics platform. Similarly, beyond our border, we have devoted resources and assigned priority to building connectivity in our immediate neighborhood. Since 2005, India has extended line of credit worth nearly $31 billion. Connectivity is an important ingredient of our policy initiatives such as Neighborhood First and Act East. Our efforts are focused on improving connectivity with South Asia and to strengthen links to the dynamic economies of East and Southeast Asia. To our immediate east, we are pursuing connectivity infrastructure projects such as the development of Sitwe Port and the Kaladan Multimodal Transport Project. On our west, we are undertaking the development of Chabar Port and the International North-South Transport Corridor. As a member and partner of regional and sub-regional bodies such as ASEAN, BIMSTEC, and Mekong Ganga Cooperation, India is also undertaking regional connectivity initiative, including the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway and its eastward extension. The recently concluded BIMSTEC Summit adopted a master plan for transport connectivity, which provides a blueprint for enhancing connectivity in the region with a suggestion of around 250 projects. In addition to development of hard infrastructure, there is also a need to put in place soft infrastructures in the form of motor vehicle agreement, coastal shipping agreement, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, India and Japan's special strategic and global partnership is firmly rooted in common values of a peaceful, stable, and prosperous world based on a rules-based order that respects sovereignty and territorial integrity of nation, where countries seek peaceful resolution of dispute in accordance with international law without resorting to threat or use of force or any attempt to unilaterally change the status quo. During the recently held India-Japan summit in March 2022, the countries reaffirmed their common vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, free from coercion and diversified, resilience, transparent, open, secure, and predictable global supply chain that provide for economic security and prosperity for their people. Japan has undertaken a number of connectivity initiatives in the region, including in India, such as the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail, the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, the Delhi-Mumbai and Chennai-Bangalore Industrial Corridor, and the Andaman and Nicobar cable connectivity. India and Japan are also coordinating their effort to realize equitable and sustainable infrastructure projects and improve connectivity in the region by responding to the needs of the host country. Coordination of projects in Bangladesh is an example in this regard, where we are four-laning the road stretch from Ramgarh to Baraiyahat, and Japan is constructing old bridge on the stretch. And another example is the rolling stock provided by India can cross over to the other side of the Jamuna River utilizing the railway bridge being constructed by Japan. Similarly, in Myanmar, we have reached an understanding that in training schools constructed by the Japanese funding, soft infrastructure such as library will be provided by India. The scope and scale of third country cooperation can be expanded. Ladies and gentlemen, the current pandemic has put greater spotlight on need for building economic resilience so that the regional economies may absorb shock and reorganize and retain their core function and structure. Connectivity has a vital role to play in the ability of the region to withstand and recover from such regional and global shocks. A high degree of connectivity increases the competitive efficiency and contributes to achieving a faster recovery from exogenous growth. To conclude, I would like to emphasize that a lot of work is due to address various practical aspects of connectivity and to guide the work and priorities of the government. I am glad that this seminar would try to address and generate ideas on future infrastructure-related cooperation in the region. It has a session devoted to digital connectivity in an area equally important, if not more than physical connectivity. This session, I am told, would include sharing of experience and best practices, as well as try and identify areas of Japan-India digital connectivity cooperation. I wish the session all the success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gitika ji, for an excellent keynote. And you have covered a wide spectrum of connectivity cooperation, India's experiences, and also several third country projects, such as coordination with Bangladesh. There are many best practices that one can draw from the deliberation you have offered today. So I thank all of you. Three important speeches in the morning, Ambassador Suzuki, Ambassador Kumar, and Ms. Gitika Srivastav. Thank you very much for joining in the inaugural sessions. And we'll have now the session one on quality infrastructure and economic resilience. And I have the pleasure to
Screen बंद कर
invite
दीजिए.
our panelists, four speakers in the first session. Dr. Fawzia Jain, Dr. Fawzia, a senior economist, Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia in Jakarta. And we have Mr. S. Vardwaj, Deputy Director General, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India in the New Delhi. He's also be part of NICDC, National Industrial Commission for Economic Corridor, and Mr. Kurihara Toshihiko, Chief Representative, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, Dr. Constantino Xavier, our good friend, the fellow, Center for Social and Economic Progress, CSEP in New Delhi. Four speakers will be dealing with the subject of quality infrastructure and economic resilience. So with much ado, I invite first Dr. Fawzia. Dr. Fawzia, you have been dealing connectivity programs and projects. You are part of ASEAN, plus also within the area, several projects that you have dealt. So I will come back first to you. In the session, you are the person who can give us an overarching idea and the programs that area and you individually have been doing. So aiming for supply chain resilience, you see that the speeches delivered by three older speakers all talked of them about supply chain resilience. So if we aim for supply chain resilience in Indo-Pacific, then what are the major challenges that need to be addressed by the Pacific countries? How can the ASEAN outlook for Indo-Pacific, AOIP in short, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, IPOI, free and open and inclusive Indo-Pacific, they can work together in tandem to enhance the connectivity while addressing supply chain. And there is another question, I would like to ask you, and please feel free to answer if you have time. What is the prospect of public-private partnerships programs for increasing quality infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific? So the floor is yours. We give 10 minutes to each speaker. And if we save time, we'll come back to you once again in the Q&A. With that, I invite you, Fawzia, to take the floor and share your valuable perspective on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prabir, for very kind introduction about me. If I may, I would like to share some slides, only few slides, and so it's easier for me to also respond to your questions.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Can you make it bigger slightly?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Great.
Yeah. Very good afternoon for everybody. Thank you very much again for RIIs to invite me here, also for the to the excellencies ambassadors and also people, colleagues from around the world. Yeah. My name is Fawzia Jain. I'm one of my research interest in area is about the infrastructures development as well as connectivity, especially in East Asia. So according to this session topics, allow me to recall what we are talking about quality infrastructures. Yeah. One may find some definitions of quality infrastructures, and here I would like to put it in comprehensive dimensions. Yeah. In terms of cost aspect, the quality infrastructure applies an effective resources mobilizations with regards of whole life project costs and incorporate opportunity costs and socio-economic costs. Yeah. A KI, quality infrastructures, also implements the principle of good governance, and it nurtures the infrastructure markets and related markets, as well as the capacity of the stakeholder. KI has measurable output and positive output as well to fulfill the demand in a way of providing sustainable, safe, and resilient infrastructures. So it should meet the standard conformance and aims to excellent service. The impacts of KI, this one, must be positive, either in economic, social, and environment. Now, the challenges are abundant. Yeah. Some infrastructures may fulfill several characteristics of the definitions, but fail in other aspects. This can happen when we face limited capacity and immature markets. Yeah. Also, political intervention, the mentality of finding easy way, and some incorrect perceptions, especially in climate change adaptations and hard challenges. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are not many clear projects cost benefits evaluation available, yeah, which compare it with the hypothetical traditional projects. Yeah. Quality infrastructures also open some opportunities, yeah, for innovative financing, such as blended finance, and also put a better standard for the users and environment. That's a chance to adopt innovation. Another opportunity and also challenge at the same time is inclusiveness, because we have so many interest groups, yeah, in reality. Yeah. Now, let me show some key indicators here in our regional cooperations. Yeah, in this case, Indo-Pacific. So why resilience? Yeah? Resilient infrastructures is very crucial. I think we know the answer. Yeah, especially we have been facing this pandemic since early 2020. We saw some systems crumble, some could recover, some still struggle. Yeah, so the pandemic exposed the inability of supply chains to quickly shift production and logistics in response. Supply chains resilience refers to the ability of given supply chains, yeah, to prepare for and adapt to unexpected disruptions, yeah, quickly adjust and continue functioning to recover quickly. So it must be robust systems. Yeah. Some logistics experts have some principles to achieve resilient supply chains. Yeah, such as they have to like rapid detections, response and recovery, end-to-end data-driven supply chain control, and collaboration of private and public supply chain stakeholders. Yeah. But we also show, yeah, during these pandemics that policy response are various. Yeah. For example, in the US, yeah, the policymakers calling for interventions to supply chains of critical goods, especially medical supplies and high-tech products, to be restored to the US. Yeah, but it's impossible because even though some policymakers want to, yeah, because it will detach the country from the global value chains, make their product less competitive, and reduce the opportunity to reciprocal trade with other economies. Yeah. Some feasible ways include the investment, yeah, to improve national logistic infrastructures, including hard and soft infrastructures. Yeah. So they aim to improve supply chain reliability and service quality, cybersecurity, among others, and also custom performance. Yeah. Now, if we see that's U.S. Policy response. China, on the other hand, have moved earlier in this case. Yeah, we know about the Belt and Road Initiative. Yeah, that it has up level its supply chain systems. Yeah, this includes new routes and modes for global trade, innovations, new supply chain design, reduction of cross-border logistics frictions, and entrepreneurial development. So it facilitates innovations and create economic value. Now, getting back to these indicators, we can see some importance picture here. Yeah, first, that private investment plays a very important role. Yeah, as we can see in the figure one. Yeah, that's why I said that the our policy intention should still needs to incorporate and nurture the private market. Yeah. because this important role. Yeah, and second, in terms of maritime global integration, yeah, as in the figure 2, yeah, liner shipping connectivity index shows integration level of the country to the global maritime trade. Yeah, we could see that some leading economies in Asia, yeah, still under the level of China, yeah, and except perhaps Singapore, still 100%. This is back 100% shows the China peak connectivity index in 2006. Yeah, uh, so Singapore, Malaysia, and in Japan, yeah, perhaps can we can see that they are still very high in very high positions, yeah, connectivity, uh, and also we can see the increasing connectivity here, yeah, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, yeah, from 2019 to quarter. Uh, Last quarter into 2021. Yeah. So let me see the from the optimistic point of view that this is opportunity to enhance the capacity and the connectivity, yeah, from Indo-Pacific leading economies to the world global trade. Yeah. And the figure three show us the liner shipping bilateral connectivity index. Yeah, it's a country pairs integration level into global liner shipping networks. Yeah, we can see that China is still the main partner of all leading economies in Asia. And some of ASEAN countries' economies are also connected quite well with UK, US, and yeah, to a lesser extent, yeah, compared to China. So I guess apart from the geographical proximity and China's giant industry, political preference can also play its part here. Yeah. Now, last slide here, the data shows that average share of vessels arriving on time, yes, in 2001 here is still 40%, yeah, the lowest value within 10-year period. Yeah. So we still see a slow recovery, yeah, in maritime trade. Yeah. On the policy side, we can say that the trade is business driven, but it can be facilitated to incentivize it, as an example from the US and China policies. Yeah. And what type of facilitations? Yeah, it includes both hard and soft infrastructures, yeah, including ports and institutions, agreement, harmonizations, eliminating the barriers, and etc. Yeah, and because we are dealing with limited resources and time, yeah, it's also important to have a map of priority. So we one can see that important thing to look at is critical junctions of industrial net production network. So where is uh, the start point that we need really to handle? Yeah, in this case, yeah. So with these three cooperations, yeah, in Indo-Pacific, yeah, like ASEAN Outlook, also free and open Indo-Pacifics, and in the Indo-Pacific Ocean initiatives, I think we have already several or quite many shared themes, yeah, for cooperation, such as a maritime blue economy, shared technologies, trade, disaster risk, etc. Yeah, and also mentioned by Ambassador Suzuki and also Dr. Mohan Kumar. Yeah, so we can use existing agreements. Yeah, including outside this IP district cooperation like India FTA with ASEAN, for example, and Ambassador Suzuki also mentions about the Japan and India cooperation in digital connectivity. That we can start from that. Yeah. Let's take an example from the three cooperations that I read again the documents and see that ASEAN outlooks the thing that they share many, but let's see that maritime connectivity, yeah, maritime economic connectivity, ASEAN outlook for emphasize on that theme. Free and open Indo-Pacific promotes quality infrastructure as one of its pillars. Yeah, Indo-Pacific Ocean initiatives also have a maritime economy. So we can start from this maritime economic connectivity. But then how can we move from this? Yeah. First, that on policy levels, I think we could have some harmonized agreements, yeah, among parties of Indo-Pacific. Yeah. And then we could also have the let's make a showcase of the projects, yeah, and promote them, yeah. So we start from the doable actions, for realizing the programs, yeah, because agreement is agreement, but the programs that already have, or we can see it move to the actionable programs, yeah, such as utilization of digital connectivity, yeah, and make a showcase and promote them. So scholars, policy makers, private sectors can improve the actions later on based on this showcase. And I hope that it will snowballing, yeah, it has snowballing effects to other actionable programs or project infrastructure projects. Yeah. Uh, that's my humble opinion on that. And if when Dr. Prabir asked about the private public-private partnerships, then if we get back here, look at the figure one, yeah, private investment plays important role. So this is a very important, and how could I say that, that's crucial still, yeah. Not that I say that the public sector is less crucial. Instead, that public has to public sector has to take their role to lead the process, yeah. But but I think PPP already mentioned in many opportunities, many occasions, and also people like to promote that. Policymakers also would like to promote that, but still we see that the level of investment may rise, but we can really tell about the quality infrastructures here. Yeah, because if we look at if we read the documents on the or the reports on the climate change adaptations projects, yeah, the global level of sustainable and green infrastructure is still far from the enough. Yeah, we are sticking to the traditional approach, which has warned the global leaders, yeah, about the climate change infrastructures that is under the target. So how we can really achieve the Paris Agreement, for example. That's I would like to see it as in the positive view, that it is opportunity for Indo-Pacific economies to stand out with their examples, to make a showcase of the, for example, the green port connectivity between the nexus of the Indo-Pacific, for instance, from the Japan, Indonesia, Semenanjung, Malaysia Peninsula, and then India. How we could have these green ports connect, and then make them as a quality infrastructures, as well as supported by soft infrastructures. So like a trade corridor that eliminate the barriers, yeah, to incentivize liner participations from all over the world. That's only some examples, but I think we can have more if the there are a lot, if we can provide some studies, detailed studies on this showcase. I guess that's from me. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Very elaborative presentation and a talk for Gia. Excellent. The takeaways are many, but to start the discussion for the rest part of the session, you rightly said that going towards the green port corridor something like the Japan, Indonesia, India, Malaysia cooperations and maybe in the Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean. So this is an interesting, idea that you have shared. Of course, maritime connectivity is a common, IPOI, OIP, and FOIP, and countries, and we know very well that in any kind of disruption in the port across the world, and how badly it affects countries who are part of a supply chain or part of a global value chain in that way. And recent examples that China, I'm not going to read out the name of the Chinese port, which has actually disrupted all over the world, in terms of container shortage, rise of, container shipping. So, an excellent narrative, Dr. Fauja, you have shared, and we'll come back to you if you have questions in the chat box, or if there are any questions live to you, the rest part of the session. Let me come back more towards an India-specific discussion now with Dr. Varadwaj, who is handling the logistics in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and also part of the core team dealing with all the industrial corridors in the country, economic corridor and industrial corridors. Mr. Varadwaj, welcome to the session, and we have shared the questions to you. Just to repeat, you are the best person to tell us what's the current status in the high-speed corridors, like in India, particularly Ahmedabad-Mumbai, which is being done by the Japanese assistance, and the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridors, and the one you have been implementing at the government of India. Plus, please tell us, give us a direction, from your side, that India-Japan collaborations in economic resilience building through this connectivity corridors. Are there any lessons for others, or what are the new projects you may like to highlight? Please take the floor. 10 minutes to you, Mr. Bharadwaj, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prabir, and welcome my fellow panelists, Dr. Fauzia, Mr. Kurihara-san, Dr. Constantino. So I'll be going through the high-speed corridors and industrial corridors. The best corridor which we are planning, the first one is that Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. That is the most, because the economy is concentrated higher on that side, on the western side of the country. TMIC, we have procured 85% of the land has been acquired, and the work is on progress. Only some portion of the Maharashtra, we are not able to get the 15% of the land, and that also things are in the process. We'll be able to get the balance 15% of the land as well, and we hope to start it by the early next year. Coming to the other industrial corridors, we have planned a total of 11 industrial corridors, of which the Delhi-Mumbai is on a high scale. Then we have Chennai-Bengaluru, Amritsar-Kolkata industrial corridor, East Coast industrial corridor, that is with Vizag-Chennai, Bangalore-Mumbai corridor, extension of CBIC to Kochi via Coimbatore, Hyderabad-Nagpur, Hyderabad-Warangal, Hyderabad-Bengaluru, Odisha economic corridor, and Delhi-Nagpur industrial corridor. They are in the pipeline, and they are in the higher umbrella of the national infrastructure pipeline that has already been floated by the government. So total we have 11 as of now, which are in the pipeline, and the Delhi-Mumbai is on the advanced stage. Along the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, we have a western dedicated rail freight corridor between Dadri in UP till Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust in Navi Mumbai. And on the both sides of this rail freight corridor, we have planned industrial corridors. And this western dedicated rail corridor will be passing through 6 states. It will be benefiting the 6 states: UP, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. Then coming, how will these projects going to strengthen economic resilience? As rightly said, the economic resilience has 3 primary attributes. That is, ability to recover quickly from a shock, the ability to withstand a shock, and the ability to avoid the shock altogether. For this, recently on 13th October 2021, the Prime Minister of India launched the flagship program PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. Gati Shakti means, loosely translated, it means speed with power. This is basically a plan in which multiple projects of various departments of the government of India and the state government, they will handshake with each other so that there is lesser time is involved in giving the clearances and other approvals. And this is an online portal. This has been developed by Bhaskaracharya Institute of Space Application Geoinformatics Center from Ahmedabad. They have done satellite imagery and they have gone to at least 600 layers of data. So we have requested the states to also upload their data, the revenue data, the land data, so that when the national master plan is implemented in that particular state, its state can also benefit. The state's clearances can be obtained online. So there will be a totally handshaking between the state government of India and the state government. Then we have constructed, we already have Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor that I've already spoken to. Then we are also, to boost up the logistics thing, we are planning to have multimodal logistic hubs, logistics parks that is being done by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Some around 30 highways have been identified, and this will be done to promote the infrastructure, the investment part, and other activities. Coming to the Japan side, what we can expect from the Japan, like India and Japan can extend their partnership in the following areas, which will benefit both the countries mutually. Number one, the disaster management, the urban transport management, promoting use of the technology into urban management, institutionalizing the innovation with urban projects, creating use cases for command and control centers. And let me bring to the notice of all the participants that we already in Commerce Ministry have an India-Japan Logistic Working Group, in which one Mr. Kurihara-san, he's the coordinator from the METI side. So we are already having it. So we are likely to have another next round of meeting probably in May or June. That is going to be offline. Probably it will be held either in India or in Japan side. So that's it from my side. I hope I have not crossed the time limit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhardwaj. I have a question, which maybe you have one more minute in your side. What's the current status of the project, the high-speed corridor? I mean, railway corridor, if you can tell us, and how and what's the progress on this, if you'd like to say.
Are you referring to the Delhi and Mumbai Ahmedabad?
Mumbai Ahmedabad, yes.
Yeah, as I told you, Mumbai and Ahmedabad, we have acquired 85% of the land. Remaining 15% patch in the Maharashtra, we are facing certain problems. That also will be able to acquire it. And probably we expect somewhere early next year it should be operational. Yeah.
So you mean the 2023, this corridor will be operational or construction will be completed?
No. It's not that, it's a parallel activity. Whenever we have got the land, we've started the process. It's not that when an entire 100% land is acquired, then we'll start the process. No. It's not like that. At 85% part, we have already started the work.
Thank you very much. Just to add, once we have this corridor, the railway corridor and the several others, you said the 11 industrial corridors coming up, these are certainly going to strengthen the resilience in the economy, right? And what kind of industrial clustering, you have been expecting? Change in the industrial clustering in that way. Maybe you may touch upon one or two, the new expected, the clusters that may emerge based on these new infrastructures.
You mean which corridors? Or
anyone, you'd like to say Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor or an Ahmedabad-Mumbai high-speed corridor.
Yeah, that is also there. We have Chennai, Bengaluru, Amritsar, Kolkata, Vizag, Chennai, Bengaluru, Mumbai, then Kochi, Coimbatore, Hyderabad, Nagpur, Hyderabad, Warangal, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Odisha, and Delhi, Nagpur. What is the question? I think I didn't get your question properly.
The change of the industrial clusters. This infrastructure going to have strong effects in terms of industrial activities, right? So I'd like to know, you have any such plan or the studies done to give us an idea about the industrial clusters that may come out? out of these new infrastructures?
Okay. What sort of industries will come?
Yes, what sort of industries?
Well, it will be multiple. Like, see, is I'm coming to the Gujarat side. Gujarat side has a lot of chemical activity going on. Then the cotton activity going on. So we expect textile as well as the chemical that side, plus many others. Gujarat is already a prosperous state.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bharadwaj, for joining. Please stay with us. We have some questions in the chat box. Let me move on, and I invite Mr. Kurihara Toshihiko. He is the chief representative of Japan Bank for International Cooperation. JBIC is one of the prime investors in the country in terms of infrastructure development and all across the country, not just in high-speed corridor, but also development of social infrastructure, community projects in the India's northeast. So you're quite a wide spectrum of activities, Kurihara-san. So please take the floor and let us know. I have given you the questions. The last visit during the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Japan, we expected there was an announcement of $42 billion is likely to be invested over time. So and both of them indicated the scaling up of public and private investments in India and different parts of India. In that way, what should be the 5-year plan for India-Japan cooperation and connectivity projects and their financing? Some of the projects that you are doing in the India's northeast are having impact on our connectivity with the neighboring countries like Bangladesh or Myanmar in that way. And also, please feel free to tell us JBIC's programs in India's northeast, which are adding the quality infrastructure front, and the best practices that Japan offers in the region, and opportunities, scope and opportunities for Japan, ASEAN, and in India coming together for quality infrastructure development. Over to you, Kurihara-san. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabir-san, and distinguished panelists, Fauzia-san, Bharadwaj-san, and Konstantin-san, and distinguished guests, audiences, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be invited this precious webinars on the Indo-Pacific and quality infrastructure. My name is Toshi Kurihara, Chief Representative of New Delhi office, Japan Bank for International Cooperation. So to begin with, I would like to explain about JBIC's role and function. JICA is very famous governmental institution as well. JICA is grant and yen concessional loan-oriented institution, our sister institution actually, to have contributed much bullet train project, Shinkansen project, and Delhi Mumbai Freight Corridor project, and many metro projects. JBIC is more policy-based DFI, development finance institution, more public-private partnership oriented finance institutions. So to utilize both functions, I think India and the Indo-Pacific countries would enjoy more effective Japanese governmental support from the concessional lending side to the more commercial-based lending side with Japanese industry. And I would like to start my understanding on the quality infrastructure. It is very essential to promote quality infrastructure, focusing not only on quantity, but also on the quality side to realize quality growth, as a huge demand for infrastructure investment is expected for the development of the global economy, especially in the Pacific, with huge potential. And I would like to introduce the G20 principles for quality infrastructure once again, which includes openness, transparency, economic efficiency, in view of life cycle cost, not the short-term one-time cost, and of course debt sustainability, emerging bit of risk all over the world still. And so including such basic priorities, principles, quality infrastructure's importance is getting much higher in the upcoming chaotic global situation. And GBIC just launched our financial menu called Resilient Supply Chain Enhancement window under our post-COVID growth facility, which contributes the entire value chain of the Japanese enterprises. We have noticed that the Japanese company supply chain is more complicated, more global. I think India is facing the same difficulty. I would like to raise the example of Maruti Suzuki. After the first wave in India, I remember 2020 April, Maruti Suzuki is facing some concerns on the credit crunch of the supply chain of the Maruti Suzuki. Finally, we have seen the not very critical situation thanks to the Indian government and RBI. But the first concern is Japan has experienced some of the credit crunch under some financial crisis. Maruti Suzuki itself has rich cash, but supply chains of the headquarters are not necessarily very cash rich. Tier 1, Tier 2, including SMEs, very important Maruti Suzuki's supply chain companies, but not every such supply chain companies are Japanese-oriented, Japanese subsidiaries, like Denso, Aishin's big Japanese Tier 1 companies for Japanese manufacturing industries, but much more Indian-oriented, Indian-based supply chains, including SMEs, facing some concerns about the banking situation in India. So we extend our financing towards even such India 100% owned supply chain companies of Maruti Suzuki entire value chain. This is one idea for to be able to apply for any Indo-Pacific supply chain situation, and we are getting to know the importance of self-reliant India, self-reliant the country manufacturing platform, and also the importance of the global supply chain restructuring towards more like-minded oriented cooperation, which would be contributing the any economic security situation and troubles in the very chaotic, complicated global situation. This is my first comments. And from a practitioner, from the financial perspective, I would like to mention some the takeaway from the recent Japanese and Indian Prime Minister summit. And yes, we have seen the 5-year plan for 5 trillion yen, around 40 billion US dollars. It's huge. Of course, JICA's yen concessional loan, our sister institution concessional loans all over India would definitely contribute in the intra-India connectivity projects, including Northeast project and many metro projects and Shinkansen projects and dedicated freight corridor projects. Along with JICA, JBIC would like to contribute as much infra projects with Japanese private investors. And JBIC invested 26% in the National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation, NICDC. This is very India-Japan G2G platform to support the industrial cities along the big industrial corridor projects, of course, including Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor projects and others. And especially Dorera Industrial Park in Gujarat is very promising, and Japanese companies are very interested in seeking the opportunity in the Dorera. It is very near from the Ahmedabad city, and of course Gujarat is one of the promising states in the in India for Japanese companies. So we would like to support to introduce more Japanese companies to the India to introduce the such 5-star level industrial cities of Indian central government, state government collaboration projects, and then we can finance along with such Japanese investors. We are very prepared to provide our commercial-based but government fund-based financial menus towards the Indian projects. And you probably mentioned about some ideas about the JBIC programs in Indian Northeast. And yes, I actually visited the Northeast recently, met with NEC officials and Assam and Meghalaya government officials and Northeast Development Finance corporations as well. And for commercial-based, policy-based institutions, it was most interesting opportunities to have met with NEDFI, Northeast Development Finance Corporation. They are not the sort of microfinance institution, but also they could, they have a think tank and an incubation function. It was very interesting. And JBIC is doing the capacity building to introduce our expertise and experience in the project financing, limited request financing in, say, okay, Indonesia or other Southeast Asian countries. So I think NEDFI and JBIC would strengthen our cooperation to invite more Japanese and more private investors to energize the Northeast regions. They have much startup companies, and it is very great opportunities for Japanese investors to utilize their risk money. And JBIC's practices in Asia, I think we have financed to Indonesia very much. Especially, I would like to introduce geothermal projects. Many Japanese trading houses, companies like Sumitomo Company, Itochu Company, Marubeni companies invested in the geothermal project in Indonesia, and JBIC utilizing our private-public partnership financing opportunity menus and huge billions dollars level financing to such geothermal opportunities in Indonesia. So I think in India, I think Northeast region, I think some opportunities for attracting the geothermal investors. I noticed some potentials for geothermals. So I think such private public partnership is something India could utilize JBIC more and more. And finally, yes, 5G or ICT or sort of financial inclusion in Northeast is the area for JBIC to contribute. We financed some submarine cable projects and some 5G related projects. So I think even small, I think JBIC's risk money, JBIC's financing would contribute to invite Japanese companies to the very challenging projects of digitalization of India and the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And excellent observations on the G20 principles and the JBIC has been following. The debt sustainability, which is very important nowadays after looking at some of the countries in the neighborhood. Transparency, adaptation and implementation, both you talked about. But I had some questions. We'll come back in the in the Q&A session. Maybe you have 1 minute time before I come back to or the last speaker in the session, Dr. Constantino, the JBIC has been one of the prime investors in ASEAN countries in quality infrastructure. Would you like to draw some implication from your experience, JBIC's experience in ASEAN for India, or maybe from your experience in India as an investor in public infrastructure projects that can offer lessons for ASEAN as well? Maybe, you can reply in here or maybe in the Q&A time. Kurihara-san, can you hear us?
Thank you. So after the maybe Constantino-san's spoke, I think, yeah, I would take care of more sort of.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kurihara-san. Let me move to Dr. Constantino. He has been a prolific writer, a great researcher, and inspiration for many of us on connectivity, the border development. So we come to you, Dr. Tino, with the questions like, you have seen that Japan Prime Minister's recent visit, that India-Japan form India-Japan Initiative for Sustainable Development for the Northeastern regions, an Act East Northeast program that India and Japan, they have been doing for quite some time. So how could you look at this initiative, that India-Japan Initiative for Sustainable Development, for social and economic development for the region, Northeastern region in particular? Will it enhance the connectivity in the Northeast within the region as well as with the bordering nations? And also, please, if some of your great works tell us the resilience of infrastructure, the supply chain. So, would you like to say something about just how to strengthen safety and security while looking at the border connectivity? After all, a secure and safe trade is as good as a free trade. So when you move the trade across borders, those things are very important. So please feel free to take the floor and share your perspectives on the questions that we share. Thank you very much. Tino, over to you.
Thank you, Prabir. And thank you for the kind words. I feel you are really the pioneer of connectivity. So we're all connected to you in many ways and followers of your good work and that of your colleagues at RIS. So thank you to RIS for inviting me and hosting this in partnership with the Ministry of External Affairs and the Embassy of Japan here in New Delhi. Wonderful to be on this panel. So learned a lot from the perspectives of Professor Zen, Mr. Bhardwaj, and Kurihara-san. Prabir, I think what I'll try to do in these 10 minutes, following up on your two questions, is open it up a little and put this a bit in a broader context of how India and Japan can promote connectivity, not only bilaterally, but in a broader regional context within India's borders. You mentioned the Northeast, but also beyond India's borders, land and maritime borders. I'm thinking of Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and the larger Bay of Bengal region. And beyond that, the CMLV countries, all the way to Vietnam and the continental part of Southeast Asia. And the first point I'd like to make, I think that will help us frame all of this, is that it's wonderful to see India and Japan discussing the terms of connectivity and resilient supply chains and sustainable growth. And Japan taking the lead on this Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, 7th pillar, trade, connectivity, maritime transport, infrastructure. Because really there's a natural convergence between India and Japan in doing this. And we hear so much noise these days about geostrategy, security, competition, somehow being the drivers of this India-Japan convergence. But I would submit that there is a natural convergence that does not need friends and enemies and other initiatives to keep going. And this India-Japan natural convergence is sustained in a meeting of minds and interests. Japan, since of course Prime Minister Abe's vision of the confluence of the two seas, which coined in many ways the concept of the Indo-Pacific in the late 2000s. But also I'm thinking of, for example, the Big B initiative that JICA has been establishing in Bangladesh, which goes all the way back to 2013, 14, well before we talked about the Indo-Pacific. So there's a really, from the Japanese perspective, a long-term perspective on developing infrastructure, connectivity in this part of the world. And vice versa for India. There's a natural openness towards the East, driven by India's economic opening. You've mentioned Look East and Act East policies. And also beyond just economic reopening, a particular geographic orientation towards that economic openness of India, which is eastwards towards the rest of Asia and reconnecting India with its neighborhood and beyond. So what's really not normal, some people say that the India-Japan partnership is unnatural or weird or has some strategic interest. What really is abnormal were the many decades between the 1960s and 2000s, where these two great countries and major powers, India and Japan, were not working together across the region to correct the deficit gap in terms of development, infrastructure, and connectivity. And we've come finally to this point over the last few years. It's a long road, it'll be a long road, but I think it's important to mention it is full of potential and is a natural convergence that will have very positive spillover effects for other countries and the region. So broadly, I'd say that the panel in many ways is discussing three things: what, how, and who. The what is achieving inclusive development and sustainable economic growth. The how is through regional connectivity, interdependence, and resilient supply chains. That is the way you want to achieve economic growth. And third, the who should be involved? Who are the drivers of this? Beyond, I'd say, India and Japan, this needs to be a broader regional framework. For example, I think a common Indian and Japanese interest today, that you'll have a growth sector and vector all the way between, talking about other countries now, Bangladesh and Thailand and the CMLV countries all the way to Vietnam. That would be, I'd say, the geoeconomic focus of this partnership. So what I'll just do is I'll speak of what is necessary to make this vision happen and what are the ingredients that go into it. What are the elements, the factors that are required for this partnership and this Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, and particularly the Indo-Japan connectivity vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific relies on. And I think there are four hardware dimensions, there are four software dimensions, or four hardware factors, four software factors that need to go into this. And I'll go very briefly into this and happy to discuss it later on if we have more time. But the first hardware is obviously the tremendous need for financing for hard trade and transportation infrastructure in South Asia and Southeast Asia. The ADB mentions, I think, evaluates this at almost $2 trillion per year in US dollars in infrastructure investments until 2030. This is gaining momentum to also tackle poverty, climate change, but certainly there's a huge infrastructure deficit gap that is just needs to be fulfilled to respond to the developmental economic ambitions of all these countries in this region. So therefore, the investment announcement by Prime Minister Kishida, for example, in India is important, $42 billion, as you mentioned. But beyond India also, how can India and Japan coordinate, for example, greater JBIC, Exim Bank cooperation between India and Japan and different institutions to fulfill and bridge that infrastructure financing gap in the rest of the region. The second hardware, I think, or strong hardware factor and ingredient is the legal and regulatory liberalization and coordination between India and Japan and between various countries. This means trade and investment agreements, mutual recognition agreements, harmonization of standards, data sharing, and privacy regulations. All of these are, as we see in recent months, developing rapid change. India is signing several free trade agreements, different ones. India is developing its own data sharing and privacy regulation. So that, I think, is the second hard legal regulatory coordination that is required to fulfill this vision. The third one is strategic cooperation. And what I mean is beyond just India-Japan +1, India-Japan in Bangladesh, as we've heard a bit earlier, India and Japan and Southeast Asia. We need, I think, a broader regional and cooperative approach that will distinguish this Indo-Japanese vision from other visions of connectivity. And I'm thinking of three other stakeholders in this that will make this more cooperative on connectivity, infrastructure, or capacity building. The first is regional organizations. BIMSTEC, for example, in the Bay of Bengal. ASEAN is an important regional organization in Southeast Asia. The CMLV countries, again, as a body that has increasingly coordinated. This, I think, is an important factor to develop a strategic, cooperative approach to connectivity. The second is international financial institutions. The World Bank, the Asian Development Bank are all doing a lot of good work on connectivity and need to be, again, brought on board in coordinating and finding their own place and how to do this differently from other bilateral partnerships. And third, other partners beyond the region or in the region, however you want to look at it, Indo-Pacific Ocean initiatives and other partners, the United States, Australia, the European Union, all of which I think are important partners of this connectivity vision and could also pitch in and work together with India and Japan in the region. This is important because it reduces redundancy, it reduces repetition of connectivity initiatives. It could and should increase coordination of connectivity initiatives, not necessarily cooperation. You don't have to do joint projects, but certainly coordinate them will be a challenge and an important, again, factor in the future vision for connectivity that India and Japan share. Fourth and last point on this hard dimension is beyond the trilateral, I think beyond the vision of doing this just to some regional organizations, there will have to be from India and Japan an understanding of where to do what. Sometimes India and Japan are better off at doing things separately. They have respective USPs and comparative advantages in how they do connectivity. Sometimes it'll be good to coordinate, exchange assessments on where to invest and how to invest. And as I mentioned before, sometimes the highest level would be cooperation of doing joint projects in third countries and joint connectivity, infrastructure, capacity building initiatives. Let me come to the four software dimensions now. What is the softer side that will be required for this vision to be fleshed out over the next few years? The first one I can think of is technology and digital systems. The systems approach a systems-based approach to connectivity to monitor all kinds of flows in terms of connectivity is, for example, represented in India's effort to now develop the PM Gati Shakti connectivity master plan. But this needs to transcend borders again. This means, for example, to give you just four quick examples of what this would mean, using technology, digital systems to regulate, monitor flows, starting on India's borders, people and trade crossing India's land borders and other countries, ports and maritime freight, plugging in those systems, maritime domain awareness on following shipping routes and securing those shipping routes. And finally, India, as you know, is developing a global navigation satellite system, NAVIC. And that could be an interesting area for India and Japan to cooperate, because that will again be a systemic harmonization, I think, between Japan and India to develop common standards for a navigation satellite system that will have many beneficial spillover effects for other countries in the region. The second soft dimension is human resources. Nothing will work without a skilled labor force that is technically capable to develop this resilient economy that we all aim for. Self-reliance sounds nice and is important, but it hinges on technical competence. For example, capacity building to operate systems and infrastructure. Therefore, I think it's very important for RIS has been doing fabulous work on this on South-South capacity building, the Development Partnership Administration and the Ministry of External Affairs, JICA has been mentioned, to work together for capacity building in skilling labor forces and building that technical competence in India, but also in other countries in South and Southeast Asia. And finally, investment in science and technology for innovation. I think that's critical for capacity building coming through innovation in science and technology, and supporting that through partnerships with universities and building that largest scientific ecosystem that will drive stronger partnerships between India and Japan and other countries in the region. Third soft aspect, if I may, is institutional resilience and capacity. Connectivity needs not only to be operated, infrastructure, for example, but it also has to be sustained financially and protected. So one is sustainability in terms of financial capacity and strong institutions that assess incoming investments, decide the terms of loans and credits. A lot of technical competence is required in those processes. Some countries are more and better equipped than others. I dare saying that many countries are struggling today in the region because they're being flooded with expectation, investments, and pressures, and unable to really assess, monitor. But let me also propose something that I think Ambassador Suzuki mentioned very rightly about economic security, which is also a form of institutional resilience. Economic security requires not only operating or assessing infrastructure, but protecting it. For example, through, and I can think here of an agenda for greater partnerships on connectivity between India and Japan, and again, other countries in the region. One, investment screening mechanisms. How do you assess what is a threatening or unsustainable investment or not? Critical minerals and rare earths, critical these days to sustain the economy. We've seen what happened over the last 2 years. And energy security, on which India and Japan and other countries in the regions have a very important stake and rely and are actually much more dependent and non-resilient, if I may say so, or exposed than more other developed economies in the West. Fourth and finally, the most important aspect, maybe the most abstract but most important one. When we speak about free and open Indo-Pacific, it sounds very nice, but what really is driving that is a common normative, values-based approach that India and Japan share. That's called democracy. It's about inclusiveness, openness, accountability, transparency, the rule of law, and that underpins all connectivity dimensions, whether it's the terms of debt, how to develop infrastructure, or how to assess and screen investments. This includes, for example, on infrastructure in particular, since we're talking about that, common standards on environmental, social, and political impact in these countries of different big infrastructure projects. And developing that common normative agenda, those standards based on common values, and a common model of governance and an ideal way of development that I think India, Japan share with many and most countries, I'd say, in South and Southeast Asia, I think is the most important factor for this future free and open Indo-Pacific to take shape on the ground across this region. I'll end at this, Prabir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tino. An excellent overview on India-Japan cooperation. You also extended rightly towards eastward with CLMB dimensions, ASEAN. You covered rightly the 4 hardware aspects, software aspects, and towards the end, more important, which I feel for through the session, which is the coordination and human aspects like security, safety, not at the border, but also within strengthening the capacity with that human resources. You also touched upon the energy security, which we really missed out. But thank you very much for briefly coming on that. And it was an excellent overview, Dr. Tino. And rightly, you have given kind of a conclusion for the session. So thank you once again to you and all the 4 eminent speakers this session. I see, we have 10 minutes time, and session started 5 minutes late, so we can go on 10 minutes Q&A. And there are a couple of questions. Rather, I would say that these are the some questions may not directly fit into the conversation that we had, but you have seen the questions by yourself. When I will come back to you in a way, just 1 minute to each of you. And before I coming to you, I would first come to Kuriara-san because he wanted to speak after Dr. Tino. So, and then I will open the floor. Kuriara-san, over to you.
Thank you, Prabir-san. And I actually spoke much about what I would like to speak. But finally, I would like to add some comments on the our infrastructure financing menus. We have a green financing menu, which enable JBIC to finance to the even private state public undertakings companies, national companies like NTPC or SJVN or Power Finance Corporations. I think this menu is providing the financing to the government institution to promote the decarbonization or sort of saving energy and more sort of environmental friendly project, and even transition energy we include, even gas related we include. We have more broader green definition, and so this is also applicable for any other Indo-Pacific countries' government institutions utilizing the this green facility. I think we would like to contribute more towards the huge capital requirement of the Indo-Pacific infrastructure requirement. We are very willing to have any any early stage conversation with any industries and PSUs and national corporation, the government side, even state governments. So this is one bit of promotion from JBIC side. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to promote JBIC.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There are questions like Mr. Dr. Prabhargar from Bangkok. He has raised the questions. I like both Dr. Foggia and Dr. Tino, and also our Kuriara-san or Mr. Vardhaj would like to answer. But first I come to Dr. Foggia. The Prabhargar has asked, that when we're talking about supply chain resilience, supply chain connectivity, and you can recall, Dr. Foggia, that you discussed about it in the context of maritime security. So he has asked that, some examples you'd like to tell us. Are there any plans on special projects in terms of railway, logistics, etc., etc.? You may not have to give so much specific, but is there any kind of a special projects when it comes to a supply chain resilience? Dr. Foggia and Dr. Tino, both like to give an answer to this.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Prabir. There are some projects in my mind, but I would like to start with the fundamental things brought by these questions. Yeah, like especially when I think about India and Indonesia in Indo-Pacific, they are very large countries. India, perhaps more on the land, continent ones, and Indonesia in archipelago countries. So domestically, these countries have challenge in national logistic systems. And as in my experience and also discussions with people from these fields, logistic systems, these countries still have a huge challenge on establishments of the effective and efficient national logistic systems. For example, multimodal connections in Indonesia. The Indonesian government is still struggling to do so. We have a very high logistic cost from eastern to western part of Indonesia because of the imbalance economic activities as well as the insufficient hard infrastructures along the regions. For example, not only ports but also tracking systems, the one that tracking systems, and then railway systems, etc. So the high cost of logistics distributed to these segments of this logistics. I'm not sure about India, but that's a huge countries. Yeah. That's if you have something to sell from India to Japan, for example, or to Indonesia, but the sources of these products located far away from the nearest ports. Perhaps you have your own problem to deliver this to the ports with the efficient and effective way. What I would like to mention to emphasize here, that those challenges, yeah, could be a starting point for the national governments, yeah, to to really focus on or have incentives, yeah, to strengthen these national logistic systems. So because there is incentive, yeah, to have become hubs on the Indo-Pacific, the government needs to strengthen their domestic logistic systems. Otherwise, the change just gone away, right? So that's why we 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I with my team support the Indonesian government on the evaluations of a maritime highway. We call it toll laut, yeah, ocean toll, yeah, programs under President Jokowi to close the disparity. Price disparity gap between the eastern part of Indonesia to the western part of Indonesia because of this logistics cost. But we see that these are not the standalone or single problem. It has a multiple link challenges behind that. So that's, but we can see that if when we talk about to JICA at the time, JICA would like to open an opportunity to have a direct call for yellow tuna fish, yeah, from Maluku, not Maluku in Indonesia, directly export to Japan. But of course, they need some standards, yeah, for the quantity, for example, a quantity and time of the sending of the exports. But it's difficult because there are some challenges in Indonesia eastern part of logistic systems. We have a lot of yellow tuna fish, perhaps the best in the world, but to send it to Japan, to China, to other countries, these producing regions in eastern part of Indonesia should send it to Java Island first, which located in the west part of Indonesia, and then from there export to Japan, to Taiwan and Hong Kong. So it's wasting the systems, yeah, wasting the resources. But we see that how we can see it is an incentive, yeah, for national governments, especially in large countries like Indonesia and India, to make that's entry point, and that's Indo-Pacific opportunities as entry points to really strengthen the national logistics. That's from my point. Thank you, Dr. Prabir.
Thank you. And this is very important. In the Pacific is an opportunity to strengthen national logistics. Just to add here, India has launched, Dr. Tino, he said in his speech, PM Gati Shakti, the India logistics plan. Recently, we had a logistics master plan of connectivity for BIMSTEC, which was launched just in the last week. An ASEAN master plan of connectivity. Maybe somebody should try to link, are they connected or they are standalone? Perhaps when you go for an opportunity, to be unleashed, then they need to be linked, what are the common areas? Fine. Thank you very much, Forgia. Dr. Forgia, thank you. Let me come to Dr. Tino. You have a minute to answer the two questions, the one which raised by Dr. Klober, regarding the specific projects that you'd like to recommend, and the other one which is specific to you. Maybe that the second questions you may like to answer or not, because not specific of your conversation. But floor is yours for a minute.
Thank you. I'll be very brief and try to speak about geography and democracy in 1 minute. So on geography, the question, Dr. Kloberg, is what is the particular emphasis in India on developing connectivity? I would say it is developing multimodal connectivity to connect the hinterland economies to the eastern sea coast. That is, I think, on the mind of most policymakers in India when they speak about connectivity. That does not mean that they speak about LNG with the Gulf, for example, and also trade, of course, on the western coast of India with the Gulf region. But when India speaks about connectivity and the Indo-Pacific, it is looking south and eastwards in particular. So that is seen, for example, also in the success of the Asian Development Bank SASEC program that is focused on the eastern coast. That is reflected in India's investment in the electronic cargo tracking system, ECTS, to allow Nepali exports to circulate more freely through India to achieve their final destination on the Bay of Bengal ports, and therefore leading to record export rates in Nepal today. That is really the vision, I think, a geographic emphasis of connectivity. And we've seen really a momentous transformation, I would say, across the government of India, across the private sector, to focus on that connectivity with Southeast Asia and East Asia. On the democracy question, I'm not sure I said that India and Japan have the same political system. I think they share values and principles based on similar political systems. And today, therefore, it is not surprising that if a Japanese and Indian decision maker talk about environmental assessment, about transparency in terms of financing, when they talk about data sharing and privacy and balancing private sector interest, state interests, and citizen interests, that there is a meeting of minds, or more of a meeting of minds than between India and other actors in the country, other actors in the world, for example, China, that share less values in that sense with India. So it's absolutely natural that if you share that model of government, more or less different, and I'd say even many Southeast Asian countries have a certain impulse towards developing that, and are keen, therefore, also to developing these systems based on those shared principles, with the three examples, for example, I gave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bharadwaj, Dr. Bharadwaj, over to you. If there are questions, I think I should come to you to respond to it in the chat box. The person who actually raised the questions is an abbreviated form name. I can't see his name. But anyway, the question is important. He said that he or she, I do not know, but his question is that how many people of India expecting for Shinkansen, because it could be an expensive proposition. There are many other high speeds or semi-high speeds that are coming up under the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme or Make in India. So over to you, Dr. Bharadwaj, to respond to this question.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhu. The content, I don't really support the contention of the speaker, the person who asked the question, because see, India is expanding like anything, including the business opportunities. So preferring a bullet train as compared to the air will be highly preferable in India. First of all, it takes longer time. If you go to the airport, you have to keep at least 1 to 2 hours extra. And a businessman, for him, the time is money. When the trains are there, at lesser cost, he can just go to his next business destination. So definitely they will be useful for the India. So the contention is not supported. And then person has asked, free, no problem, businessman can afford it. Definitely it will not be a normal passenger travel. It will basically a business travel. And apart from this, I would like to add what Dr. Fauzia said regarding the logistics cost. I don't know whether the participants are aware, Commerce Ministry is annually conducting a LEADS survey, which is an individualized form of LPI, Logistic Performance Index, conducted by the World Bank. The LEADS stands for Logistics Ease across different states. The purpose of this study and the ranking is we want to expand and better improvement in the logistic infrastructure in the states, because they are not at par with the global standards as of now. So when we throw away the competition between the states, every state's like to go ahead to get a higher rank. When he desires to achieve a higher rank, definitely he'll be upgrading his infrastructure. For this, we are taking feedback from the stakeholders, users, that is transport associations and other things, as well as from the government side. But we are conducting perception-based as well as objective, taking the views of both the stakeholders. While in LPI, it's a totally one-sided thing. It is totally based on a perception. Companies sitting in America may be giving the views what is happening in India. It may be true, or sometimes to a large extent it could be exaggerated. So that's why we are conducting this LEADS study, logistics study, every year. So now we are rolling out. We'll be deputing our team. We have engaged a consultant. We'll be deputing our team. Simply from Monday onwards, they'll be going to different states, interacting with the state government officers concerned, as well as the transport associations. Taking both the sides, and accordingly, we'll just merge the things and prepare a ranking. The idea behind this is, as I earlier said, to upscale the logistics infrastructure to the global standards. The broad parameters which we are looking after: logistics infrastructure, logistic regulation, and the warehousing part of it. There should be something storage also. So we are looking after that. Our 2 reports are already available on the website. One first we conducted in 2019, then last we conducted in 2021. They are available on the website. Gujarat topped both the years, not because somebody is related to it, just because they definitely have upscaled their logistics system. That's my question. And I think, and then we are having multimodal logistic parks to reduce the turnaround time, which in turn will reduce the logistic cost. We have around 43. Let me take, I have the list in front of me. Yeah, 35 multimodal logistic parks have already been identified, and the Ministry of Road Transport is going ahead with it. Everything will be available at the multimodal. It will not. Multimodal, as the name suggests, it will be have not one, but more than one logistic modes. Like rail will be there, truckers will be there, so there will be seamless transfer of the goods. Yeah, that is the way India has adopted to do the logistic content. And we are also working closely with the LPI also. In fact, LPI suggests the logistic performance index of the World Bank is more or less skewed in favor of the advanced nations. It doesn't include basic infrastructure, basic parameters of a developing country. So we have asked them to kindly include these also, because we have a totally different setup in a developing country.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully, I think they'll be doing it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Bharadwaj. Friends, we have exhausted our time, and before I give thanks, just a kind of and closing remarks, I would like to come to Kuriara-san. You would like to have anything to say at the last?
Thank you so much for this opportunity again. And finally, I would like to add some my personal comments on the Shinkansen project. Some might think this is very huge investment and huge capital funds requirement, but I would like to say that Japanese Shinkansen project started when Japan was a developing country, not a developed country, and we spend much investment and much financing. But finally, we got to know the such high-speed railway contributed sort of business connectivities from Tokyo to Osaka, even to the southern side of the Japan, which very contributed to the productivity. We now could bring all the way from Tokyo to Osaka any sensitive goods like blood, like semiconductors, and like any high variable PCs, and with a small cost and small risks. So I think as India would get more sophisticated manufacturing in the industries, you would get more the profit and benefit from such high-speed railway. So I believe, of course, I'm not a JICA official, I'm not the technical specialist, but I believe overall, I think this is, of course, for the people, ordinary people, but more also the industry, sophisticated industry. So I think it would benefit. I believe so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I thank all the 4 eminent speakers addressing the questions given to them. And four things we want to discuss in this session: in the economic resilience, on the hard infrastructure side, soft infrastructure side, or the challenges at the country level, particularly in India and the region specific, what are the best practices and what are the opportunities. Four points have been discussed very eloquently by all the four panelists. So I thank all of them from my side, and look forward to have more interactions in future opportunities. Thank you. I move on to the next sessions, which is on the digital connectivity. Thank you very much, Porgius and everybody. And the digital connectivity session, we don't have a break in between. We're already running almost about 7 minutes late. We have four speakers, and this session is as well as a very high-level speakers. I have the pleasure to invite Dr. Yang Mi Young, who is the Executive Director of ASEAN Foundation and the Intergovernmental Organization. Thank you very much, Dr. Yang, for joining. I have with me Dr. Saurabh Garg, who is the key person, looking at UIDAI activities. One point which we discussed in this ASEAN, South Asia and Southeast Asia, replicating India's Aadhaar model. So he is the man, person who will tell us the lots of insights and opportunities where we can collaborate between across the border. With us, the distinguished professor from Kyoto University, Dr. Murai Zun. Welcome, Murai-san, to the conversation today. And we have Mr. Watanabe from NEC Corporations. We discussed in the morning session, in the inaugural session, importance of digital connectivity, 5G, high-speed data cable, etc., etc. So NEC has been implementing some of them, in Japan and the region. So we will be having a perspective from all the four speakers, their own visions, as well as they'd like to address some of the questions which we have shared to them. With that, I come first to Dr. Young, Executive Director. The questions, we shared with you. You may like to make a presentation, but just repeat with, you have been implementing the digital connectivity in ASEAN. ASEAN is the champion, particularly dealing with Malaysia, Indonesia, and other countries. So what's your experience in implementing some of the digital connectivity programs, and what are the challenges? The way forward, you'd like to draw any lessons for us for when we talk about Indo-Pacific cooperation, and also, please share the digital upskilling, in human resources. Are there any best practices that you can offer? ASEAN offers to us. So over to you, Dr. Young.
Thank you.
What is yours? 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Prabir, and thank you, RIS, for having me here today to share the digital connectivity. Dr. Prabir, do you mind to share my PPT that I have sent? Do you have one copy?
Yes, we have. We can share it.
Yeah, thank you. I prepared something. That I have been following your first sessions. I think it's a lot of technical things and then on maritime connectivity. But now we're going to zoom in a little bit about more on a digital economy. Yeah? So if I may have the slides, so I will start my sharing. Do you mind?
Yeah. Yes, Samia, can you share the slides?
Yeah, so sorry for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. So I will start with ASEAN efforts in strengthening digital connectivity. Yeah. So may I go to the second slide, please?
Yeah, maybe in the slide mode. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So can it be full? Yeah. Thank you. So why is the ASEAN so important? So for me, it's important because I'm with the ASEAN. Yeah? So ASEAN has the potential to enter the top 5 digital economic globally by 2025, and has potential to add an increment of $1 trillion USD in GDP between 2020 and 2030. So 34.5 million people are set to migrate to the cities in ASEAN by 2025, and we are going to have 25% of populations of ASEAN has the potential to create 35 smart cities across the 10 ASEAN member states. So, and we actually deploy IoT, and green technology. In terms of Asia Pacific e-commerce is expected to nearly double by 2025, reaching 2 trillion. I will not say that pandemic is good. It's definitely not. It's destructive, but it also exacerbated and pushed the digital economy further because people are confined to their lockdown and all that, physical limitations to transport themselves. So everybody actually turned their habits and behavior to using mobile phones and e-commerce platforms. So in 2018, digital payments in ASEAN reached USD 70 billion, but the size is expected to double by 2023. Next. Next slide, yeah. So digital connectivity solutions in ASEAN is we wanted to align digital rules and standards among different systems in 10 member states. I think this is a very complex thing to do, but there are a few programs like our recovery plans and ASEAN recovery plan, comprehensive recovery plan, RCEP, and all that will help to actually materialize the plan. So we also looking at support cross-border data flows and safeguard personal data. So data and cybersecurity matters has been taken into considerations, very seriously treated. And we have many programs to enhance this part of the security sections of ASEAN connections. So we have encouraged cross-border cooperation in nascent areas such as digital identities, artificial intelligence, and data innovations. Next. The Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity, or MPAC 2025, if you can see that our focus are pretty much on 5 areas, 5 strategic areas. One is sustainable infrastructure, which has been echoes and highlighted by Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar this morning on sustainability. So we have digital innovation, seamless logistics, regulatory excellence, and people mobility. We actually stresses a lot on people mobility here because, as you know, that ASEAN is very diverse. We do not have one common value, but we are multi-polar, different kinds of system. But we believe in, sovereignty, respect to each other, non-interventions. That's why there is a lot of focus on people mobility and also streamlining the system. So in the 5 strategy, we try to actually achieve seamlessly and comprehensive, connected and integrated ASEAN, which will promote competitiveness, inclusiveness, and greater sense of community. Because geopolitically, it's very wide, geographically, like in Indonesia itself, you have few thousands islands. So to connect each of them is actually very challenging. We have many projects that we have rolled out under the ASEAN Foundation, supported by our private and public funders. And we found that to reach out to this each of the AMS at this time is really challenging. And some of the places that we went has got these connections. And also in terms of digital knowledge, digital literacy, digital divide is actually still a very big issue to curb. So let alone talking about connectivity. But so there is another story we will discuss next round. I think this is a long story. So we also would like to bridge the digital divide with innovation to support inclusive economic growth. So many efforts has been put into like marginalized group. Like women, people with disability and all that. So it is a little bit of different kind of ball games here. So we are looking at equal inclusiveness for everyone to have the opportunity, same opportunity. So we also promote the adoption of digital technology by micro and MSMEs to enhance their participation in digital economy. So several programs has been lined up in all the plans, like our AEC plan, economic plan, our social cultural pillars, sectoral economic plan, and all that. And also a security pillar, these three pillars has been working cross vertically. Previously was horizontal, but now it's vertical across the three pillars. So collaborations in terms of partnering is really important right now. So we also seek to promote improve open data use and digital data management by establishing ASEAN Open Data Networks. So this is the first very important and crucial efforts to streamline the effort among all the 10 AMS. But of course, certain countries, certain AMS, certain countries in the region is better off, and certain countries is not doing that well. So next. So in terms of the key trends shaping ASEAN digital connectivity, as I mentioned, we can put in place a lot of good suggestions and policies. Policies is perfect already, I think. But the challenges now is the implementations. Whether we can implement it and sustain it is another question. So we have a doubling of the number of ASEAN households that are already part of the consuming class. Over the next 15 years, we have middle class, very big group of middle class, and also the e-commerce, very big buyers, very attractive for many brands in the world. So the challenges of improving productivity is to sustain economic progress as growth in the size of workforce already start to slow down. So we noticed that there is a lot of gaps that we need to bridge, between the digital economy and the IL 4.0. Previously, there is a lot of efforts being talked about IL 4.0, but it has never really kickstart, really be there, But with this pandemic, it makes everybody try to grab as many, a plan as possible, to quickly move and quickly become able to adapt to this new VUCA kind of environment. So the movement of 90 million people also to cities to ASEAN by 2030 also is another sign of modernizations and more needs for broadband services and hardware and software investment in here. And about loads and loads of data, So these are really challenging. Who is going to manage the data properly, and who is going to make sure that the digital world is safe? So there is a lot of challenges that we have to look into. So the need for infrastructure spending to more than double in history. These are really exacerbated. We push it to the requirement, and the demand now is double up. Before that was not that much. So we have about 350 million people are connected in ASEAN, to the internet. So overall, we have about 600 over million people in ASEAN. So the challenge of equipping the world's third largest labor force with skills needed to support growth and inclusiveness is there. So the emergence of disruptive technologies also is there, and whether we can embrace the new technology and whether we have the money to invest in the in the big infrastructure. That is another thing. So the opportunity to transform natural resource efficiency in the region, and also imperative to understand the implication of ASEAN as the world shift towards a multipolar global power structure. So this is one thing that ASEAN has to adapt to. But of course, in terms of inter-regional, there's a lot of collaboration already. And starting from early this year, January, RCEP has kickstart. So all our partners, I think we are looking at a very good potentials in the future. Next. I will quickly run through some of our program, the next slides, that support digital economy. Next, can I have, yeah. So these are some of the programs that we work with public and private partnerships. So we have ASEAN Seeds for the Future. We work with Huawei. Thanks so much to Huawei to be our partners and to put some funds there for us to build our resources. And we also have ASEAN Digital Literacy Program, and we work together with Google to train and to train this digital literacy level of the ASEAN youth. And we have ASEAN Cybersecurity Skilling Program. We are working with Microsoft to make sure that we create a more safer cyber world for everyone. Better, a more healthier cyber world for all. Next. So some of our digital program, we also have got ASEAN Social Enterprise Development Program, where we actually teach the social enterprises digital to use digital platform, digital means to help them to boost up their businesses, and also to network and to link them out with government and also a business community. So we worked very closely with ASEC side, our siblings, ASEAN Secretariat, with their AEC sectorate. So Bridges to the Future ASEAN Youth Employment is a program with Google, and we are actually looking and conducting a research right now to see how much of gaps are there for digital skill in ASEAN youth, So we are looking at what kind of skills needed to be put in place and how we can train them to be better, to be more resilient, and to be able to be put in the market, to be hired in the future. So Future Ready ASEAN is always been there. We started 2019 on Microsoft programs on Python. So now we are expanding this platform to offer more training for ASEAN youth. Next. And of course, this is one of our longest serving program also together with SAP. So we build capacity of digital literacy of 21st century skills for youth in the region. And we have already have helped 88% of students taking part in the survey improve of 21st century skill of 16,000 over students and 1,000 over lecturers and 370 higher education institutions trained on the SAP Cloud Analytic Clouds. In fact, ASEAN Foundation also, during the pandemic time, we have digitalized all our programs, our operations into digital platform. So thank you so much. So these are some of my sharing. So I will look forward for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang. Of course, there will be questions, but I'll come back to the Q&A session. So, but more important here is that, at your foundation, you have taken 6 flagship programs, which you presented towards the end with partnerships with several international organizations, Microsoft, Google. And these are kind of a way forward for ASEAN as well as for when you look at in the Western side and in India. So thank you very much for this exhaustive.
But Dr. Prabhu, I'm looking forward to work with India also. Okay, you are all technology leaders.
Yes. So now the next speaker is from India, and listen to him. He's Dr. Saurabh Garg, the Chief Executive Officer, Unique Identification Authority of India, UIDAI. So Dr. Garg, over to you. Floor is yours. So 10 minutes to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Day. And let me straight away invite Dr. Wang to come to India whenever it's convenient for her. It'll be a pleasure to host you in India. Talking on digital connectivity, which is the theme for this session. Over the past decade, I would say there's been a digital revolution in India. We have about 1.2 billion mobile connections in India, and nearly around 800 million of them are smartphones. We have about 820 million internet subscribers in the country. And we are also a mobile-first country with some of the lowest prices of mobile phones globally. And because of this price, which is very equitable, it has also helped bridge the urban-rural digital divide because if not a smartphone, a feature phone is available ubiquitously across all areas. And apart from this, not only in terms of the costs of the mobile phone, even the costs of the internet are among the lowest globally, which has enabled for us to build a lot more applications which are internet-based and which can be accessed across the country. So I would say the digital revolution over the past decade has helped India to become a much more inclusive society inclusive, whether socially, financially, or economically, because of the connectivity that has happened across the country. If I can add a bit on the Aadhaar, which has been the universal digital identity for Indian residents, we are now reached a stage where 99.9% of adults resident in India have an Aadhaar digital identity, which translates to about 1.32 billion people in the country have an Aadhaar identity. And because of this, anyone can be authenticated anytime from anywhere in the country. Even we have mechanisms for offline authentication so that in case connectivity is a problem, that the ability for an individual to able to identify himself or herself is there. And I think this is an extremely empowering situation for an individual to be in, that they can say who they are without any confusion. And I think that's the reason that the SDGs for 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals set out by the UN to be achieved by 2030, has identified as a target 16.9 as a legal identity for all. And I can only gainsay the need for this legal identity. Because of this digital identity, digital legal identity that we have, we've been able to do direct benefit transfer of more than US 74 billion into beneficiary accounts, and this was extremely useful during the COVID time. We really, the brick and mortar banks that were there, given the fact that we have 600,000 villages, now we have the last mile banking made possible by the Aadhaar enabled payment system. So we have these micro ATMs, 5.5 million of them across the country, so that people are able to withdraw cash, deposit cash, and more than 12 billion transactions have happened on these. And because of this legal identity, the Aadhaar, it has also led to a universal financial inclusion that we have now 1.4 billion accounts, bank accounts in the system. And the Jan Dhan Aadhaar, mobile Jan Dhan being the bank account, Aadhaar being the digital identity, and the mobile phone, which I just spoke about, the combination of the bank account, Aadhaar, and mobile has ensured that financial inclusion is a target that we seem to have nearly achieved universally. And it's because of this that the digital payment ecosystem has expanded. We already do about $300 billion digital transactions, and it's expected in the next 2 or 3 years to touch $1 trillion of digital payments across the country. There are a number of other programs like the National Knowledge Network, a platform for school education, and the focus is on how to make various government services accessible online through the digital mode. So you have a lot of applications that have developed due to this. So going forward, there are 3 areas I would say that we are really focusing on, 3 or maybe 4. One is, which is overarching, to be digitally smart. So we are talking of the smart cities, we're talking of smart education, smart manufacturing, smart logistics. And this is riding on the digital rails that we have built, and Aadhaar is a very important part of that. And within digital smart, we are talking of 3 kinds of the Digital India mission that we have. One is the creation of digital infrastructure. We are moving from mobile connectivity to broadband connectivity. We have a Bharat broadband network that's being built, so that a national optical fiber network which connects across the country, and a common service centers to access, which are basically internet-enabled kiosks where you can access, and we have nearly 450,000 of them already. So one is on creation of the digital infrastructure. The second, and part of this is broadband connectivity, and of course, wherever needed, satellite-based interconnectivity. The second is on improving digital equity. so that whatever digital divide is there, how we can reduce it. I spoke about the rural and urban, how that mobile phones have enabled that, and net neutrality is another such policy decision that we have taken, which will help improve digital equity. And the third is, of course, digital network security, because that's extremely important. I think safeguards have been built in. We are having a data protection bill, which is soon expected to become a legislative act, investing in security and confidentiality issues. And of course, as my previous speaker mentioned, there are emerging areas like quantum technologies, blockchain, etc. So we are, of course, looking at those, how they can be leveraged to focus on digital India and a digitally smart India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gorg. Excellent presentation. But I would, while you spoke about India's vision and India's programs, these are very, very rich and resourceful to all our participants and the speakers in the session. Also, I have questions, when you, towards the end, you touched upon when in the Digital India program, the quantum technology, the blockchain, which are part of Industrial Revolution 4.0. What do you think, the cooperation between India and Japan in the digital technology, particularly managing the supply chain resilience like cyber security? Are there any opportunities to cooperate between India and Japan, or India, Japan, ASEAN, some of the Southeast Asian countries? Another subsidiary questions to you, sir. You can also reply that your rich experience in implementing Aadhaar, implementation, more important that you have given an innovation aspects, like everything now we do in India today, we need that card, the number. So are there any experience that you'd like to draw for rest of the world? So please, if you can take 1 minute or 1.5 minutes to respond to this.
Sure. On the first one, on possibilities of cooperation with Japan, I think we would be very open to examining the different areas. Cybersecurity is one that we mentioned. Future technologies which are on the horizon is another one. And we would definitely like to exchange with Japan, given the rich experience that they have and the rich technological base that Japan has. And I'm sure there would be numerous opportunities in the digital sector alone where the partnerships can be developed, whether it's on connectivity, whether it's on growth of the digital services, or in terms of electronics manufacturing and a host of such products. I'm sure there would be. And on the second part, Aadhaar is built on an open source technology, open architecture. And we have had discussions with some of the ASEAN countries in the past who would like to adopt the Aadhaar architecture in building their digital identities for their countries. And we would be delighted to join with ASEAN and other countries within the ASEAN group, and for that matter, across the globe, on how the Aadhaar architecture can help develop open source ecosystem locally. And it would be a pleasure for us to take that forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gorg, for the intervention. Please stay with us, and we'll have more questions during the Q&A session. Let me move on and invite our eminent speaker, Dr. Murai Zun, who is a distinguished professor and also an advisor to the Japanese cabinet. Dr. Murai, floor is yours. Would you like to make your speech? Do you have any PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. But yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, let me share a little bit about my background. And I've been working on of course, a network development, internet development from the first point. I'm a kind of a pioneering member to develop the internet in the world, especially the connecting all the ASEAN countries with all the universities working together. And for India, then I took the professorship job, adjunct professorship job with IIT Hyderabad this year. So I've been spending some time in this year to work with other people in India, especially the India stack and the other governmental approach as well. But anyway, so let me share my slides for the today's session. Can you see this?
Yes,
Okay,
perfect.
good.
Please.
Okay. All right. So let me start with the background of the region. And so this is the year 2000. Internet penetration in the world just 6%. I think. I hope you can see this one. Okay, 6% of the worldwide population penetrating to the internet, participating into the internet, and the North Asia this time was mostly Japan in by year 2000, and then so just a 6%, and then this is about the last year, and this is almost reaching to today 70%. And then so CD North America is almost 100% close, and Asia is still 63%. So a lot of space to grow up, and then so but already from the number of people connecting to the internet, this is largest portion in Asia. Think about the meaning of this fact, and now all the digital data generating and chasing and from all the human beings. So a number of the people participating on the internet means a lot in terms of AI and other sophisticated software processes for the future. So with the assumption of a lot of cloud computing and there maybe a quantum computing and the other thing, and so this is relatively meaning the strength of the software power. So that's Asia, and then of course largely coming from India and China from the number point of view. So this is a background. And from a connectivity thing, which is one of the topics of today's session, and then if you look at this cable map, partially on a Indo-Pacific area, so one of the things I like to mention is that it used to be all the cables coming to Japan and going down, and then going to India, and then going to Europe. That was a kind of a southern route, we should say. But now these days, this area of a cable is unstable very much, and therefore the new implementation started up in this is Guam, and then Guam, Hawaii, and so a little bit of alternative topology to be generated in the area. So and from another point of view, this is a kind of looking down the planet from the top, north, meaning, right? So this is Japan, and then this is the ice, how the ice melted on the Arctic Ocean. And so they started to work on kind of putting that cable from Europe to Asia Pacific through the Arctic Ocean, and which is sometimes challenged, and then in a various route to Asia Pacific and from the north. So this is creating the alternative path rather than the passing from the India. This is a south route I talked about, and then also because of the melted ice situation of Arctic Ocean, so we can have a kind of two big ring around the planet, around the kind of the area between the Asia Pacific and Europe as well. So this is a big change on the alternative topology for the connectivity. So this is happening, and then also it's planned, and it was announced last month actually to connect this one. And then also I said unstable situation in a kind of this area of ocean down south of Asia, and therefore they're putting the more toward installing the new cables in the Pacific. So this is basically the thing. So this is a summary of what I've been talking about. Submarine cable used to be the kind of transatlantic, trans-Pacific are the major, and then also through the southern route, and the trans-Russia route was existing, but then the trans-Russia route shut down now because of the obvious reason. Therefore, this new development of the Arctic Ocean route is going to be creating adding the alternative topology to the Asia Pacific. And there's some of the new activities going on, and connecting the Chile to Australia, and then on to the Asian Pacific countries. So this is another area they are planning, and also the very hot discussion actually for the geopolitical discussion in kind of South Pacific area for the cable. So this basically the line is roughly representing the traffic of the internet today. And adding to that, then probably you have noticed that the news last week and the other things, and there is the new non-terrestrial network. So terrestrial network is a submarine cable and the surface 5G and other things. But the non-terrestrial meaning that this is internet connectivity and the infrastructure from the air. So including the stratosphere approaches, drone approaches, and low Earth orbit approach. So low Earth orbit is these days a very, very active in terms of commercial entities for the 5,000, many thousands of low Earth orbit covering, as you see, for the entire planet. Therefore, now the internet coverage is going to be, not only connecting everybody, but connecting all the area. So surface of the ocean, surface of the mountain, surface of everywhere. So that can creating the innovation for all the fishery area and the agriculture and other things. So this is very well. Asian Development Bank is issuing the very much kind of study report last year, and then this is about the kind of snapshot of all the low Earth orbit, how they are covering the area. So this is covering the area. So probably this week of news is SpaceX. It's one of the low Earth orbit internet services connecting all the Ukraine site, and then the SpaceX is delivering a lot of ground station to them so that the Ukraine is keeping a connection to the internet, and so this is already there, and the service started this year. So this is the first year of a low Earth orbit, the special internet thing. So it's not only the SpaceX, Elon Musk's SpaceX, but also OneWeb and other things going on. So the India Stack, talking about the India Stack is a great approaches from India, and then so UIDAI, and then other platform, including the infrastructure. But it's really important to collaborate. Then this kind of architecture is going to be necessary. So the data ID and the policy rules and the platform and the 5G and the domestic infrastructure, as well as the global international. Okay. Is it okay? Okay. So the India Stack. Yeah, I was thinking about the relationship among the countries is going to be kind of according to the architecture of this one. So global infrastructure is global, and then the national infrastructure like India stack should be learned, and then the interoperability is going to be necessary between the country. So this is about the Quad.
Okay,
Is,
thank you.
for countries. And are you okay?
Tomorrow at 7:30. Oh yeah, in the
Yes,
morning. Okay.
Professor Murai, please go ahead. I would request others.
Yeah, well, actually, this is the end. So a Quad situation is the same thing, but the last comment from me is that very important that we coordinately working together for the thinking about the global infrastructure of the internet, as well as kind of domestic efforts should be kind of interoperable and exchangeable. This is like a data free flow with trust and that kind of thing. And so as Dr. Garg mentioned about the ID things, and then that's going to be exchanged with that level of data exchange, which is and the data interoperability is going to be very important, which is very much the efforts should be coordinated among the countries. So thank you very much. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Professor Murai. Excellent presentation. Fresh perspectives, particularly on the undersea cables and the internet, global public goods, which you talked about towards the end, the cooperation between the four countries in the Quad context. We have some questions. Certainly, we'll come back to you in the Q&A session. Professor Murai, thank you. Please stay with us a few more minutes for the Q&A. Next speaker, the last speaker of the session, Mr. Watanabe. Watanabe-san, floor is yours. You're from NEC, and you have a presentations to make. So please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so yes, my name is Nojun Watanabe from NEC Corporation. So I will use this slide. And well, first of all, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to join this session. So yes, I would like to explain our activity on driving the innovation with open 5G networks. Could you change this to presentation mode? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so next page, please. So for those of you who may not know NEC, in brief, NEC has been in business for more than 120 years since the establishment in 1899. And annual turnover is $27 billion, spent $2.6 billion in R&D annually, and has more than 47,000 patents. And we are providing a wide range of solutions from the ocean floor to the outer space. Next, please. Yes, we see many use cases on how 5G is changing the world and the way we live. NEC has already gone through many trials of new 5G use cases in Japan. And let me show you two examples of these use cases. The first example is remote control of heavy construction machines. We are testing backhoes that are autonomously operated and can be controlled remotely when needed. We aim to improve the productivity of the construction industry while saving labor of operating machines. Another example is remote processing to separate materials for recycling with using video analysis and AI technologies. As such work is hazardous, remote processing realizes workers' safety. These are one of examples, and NEC is committed to finding ways where 5G and its connectivity can bring social value, like supporting circular economy initiatives. These use cases are realized because NEC has both of IT capability and network infrastructure expertise. Well, everyone has talked about IoT or Industry 4.0. The benefit of 5G is not only for consumers, it will change whole industry and enables next level of customer experiences. 5G evolution is different from the development up to 4G network, which was the enhancement of people-to-people communication. And with 5G, everything is connected and it realizes the communication of things to things. And it enables new services and use cases in every aspect of our lives, such as autonomous driving vehicles, VR, AR experience, robotics and automated manufacturing, and so on. Various use cases will be created to make our lives better and more convenient. And telecom network will become a more and more critical infrastructure around the world to support these use cases. The new use cases for 5G will have unique requirements and it cannot be realized with traditional way. So how can such new use cases be realized? The industry is experiencing a major technology shift. We see the same trend toward virtualization and openness in the telecom industry as what happened in the IT industry in the past. In order to realize the variety of 5G use cases, not only the expertise in telecom networks, but the technologies in virtualization and cloud is also important to enable flexibility and agility of the networks to accommodate the unique requirement of each use case. 5G use cases are deeply linked to the industries, and open collaboration with enterprise partners from broader business domain will also be the key. No single vendor can solely deliver all of the required 5G promises, and open ecosystem approach is crucial to deliver the best-of-breed solutions. Open networks with flexibility, agility, and innovation will be the vital foundation to deliver the 5G promises. I would like to briefly explain about open architecture. To cope with variety of use cases in 5G, it is especially important to apply open architecture. In case of traditional RAN, the whole RAN system was based on a single vendor vertical integration model, which has less flexibility. While an open RAN enables a combination of various equipment from different vendors via the open interface, and by selecting the appropriate equipment, we would be able to provide an optimal solution based on the use case requirement. In addition, this open interface can assist the virtualization of the RAN, and this actually brings further flexibility, efficiency, and scalability of the network. So how open networks are different from the traditional closed networks? Why are open networks so important? Open interface enables vendor diversification, including the utilization of COTS hardware. It drives innovation and provides flexibility of modular upgrade for quickly adapting to the rapidly changing environments. There are multiple deployment options available, such as on-premises, cloud, private, and so on. There are several advantages that open networks can afford. NEC is announcing the launch of NEC Open Networks. Our broad suite of products and solutions composed of RAN, XHAUL transport, converged core, operations automation, and professional system integration services. NEC Open Networks truly unleash the potential of 5G and enables flexibility, improved speed of innovation, independence from proprietary solutions. NEC has established the 5G Center of Excellence in the UK and its laboratory in India to build up open ecosystem in a multi-vendor environment. This will help accelerate the use of open technology and support its global deployment. In our lab, NEC assures the interoperability of the end-to-end network by performing pre-integration and end-to-end validation testing, providing customers with working solutions that deliver the performance needed. In India, NEC started the business from 1950s, and we have more than 6,000 employees across India. NEC is proud to be associated with the Government of India to implement larger ICT projects which impact citizens' lives positively. Projects like submarine cable projects from Chennai to Andaman Nicobar Island and Aadhaar biometric project are contribution to Indian society. Since CEO of UIDAI is here, NEC thanks him for giving us this opportunity to be part of this world's largest biometric project ever. As Open RAN leader, leveraging the experience of the nationwide commercial deployment and stable operation in Japan, we are leading multiple projects progressing with our open network solutions. NEC's approach is well received. We are proud that these operators trust our capability and select NEC. And the next will be my last slide. So NEC will open the door to the future of the communication network through NEC Open Networks. I hope you will start the journey with us from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Watanabe-san. Excellent presentation. And the last slide, open the door. And NEC has been part of several digital connectivity projects in India, not just Aadhaar card. Also, you were part of implementing undersea cables from Chennai to Port Blair, right? And so there are many best practices that NEC offers to the region. So with this presentation, we come close to the session. Now, I don't see any questions in the chat box, but I'll come back to the four speakers, eminent speakers, 1 minute to each. This is the technical subjects, very, very important, but in any way, the questions may come slowly or may not come upfront, open forum like this. So I would like to, see, your remarks, like what Professor Murai, he came out in his presentation, that everything in the name of internet and it's in the global public goods, right? That you have to keep it in open, more access, more and more access doesn't deplete the resources. That's why it is a public goods concept. And towards the end, he came out with a kind of a framework, very rightly, on the Quad context, what will be the policy convergences. And so I see there is a link between Dr. Young's presentations in the first, when she came towards the end, we talked about several open source program with Google, Microsoft, and several others. And when Dr. Gorg, he talked about it, is that Aadhaar or CoWIN, which are the open source programs that India offers to, to the country, the nation, and to all other countries in the neighborhood and the beyond. And then we see the presentations very rightly by the NEC corporation like Mr. Watanabe. So if I may ask a question to all of you, in your own way, please respond what the scope and the opportunities that you think that India-Japan cooperation, as well as in terms of technology, in terms of policy, in terms of dealing with one particular subjects, plus what should be the way forward for India, Japan, and ASEAN partnerships in digital connectivity. These are, some questions to all of you. You may like to respond to. Plus, whatever you would like to respond, if you could not speak in your presentations, you may like to come back. Particularly, I have a question to Professor Murai that, you have given a very broad and very overarching, an idea about the cooperation between the Quad and Indo-Pacific. But are there any low-hanging fruits perhaps the countries may prefer to pick up one or two new projects to take forward. Would you like to suggest something where the convergences with the minimum efforts possible, including in ASEAN and also some of the Quad countries as well? So with that, I invite first to Dr. Kwang, Dr. Yang to say your views and anything that you'd like to have in concluding remarks, as a concluding remarks. You have to unmute.
Sorry, is it me first, Dr. Prabir?
Yeah, you first. Yes.
Thank you. I think I highly agree with what you have suggested, and also the previous sessions mentions that there is a need to identify perhaps one projects that we can collaborate and partners and put all our effort and expertise into the test. Okay, because for me, from my previous experience with Malaysia Digital Economy, and when I was in that organization for 20 years in Malaysia, we always found that everybody has their own expertise and strength. Yeah? So it's very hard to combine and make them work together because everyone thinks theirs is the best. Okay, so what we can do is maybe to identify one projects and put in all our efforts. Like some, maybe they have money. Some, I mean, funding is definitely the key for any projects right now. So funding, and like India can come in with your knowledge in technology and also programming, you're really strong in that part. So for Japan, definitely their technology. So you have the best remedies, here, and you have the cook already. So are we looking for one place that everyone can group together and we can join and do something, that can actually sustain? That is important. The project or the program has to be sustainable and long-term impact and can really bring values to people's life. I think at the end of the day, technology is nothing if it cannot change or improve people's life. So that is my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gorg, over to you. The concluding remarks, would you like to say anything or the questions that we raised?
Yeah. So I would just like to mention, given the fact that we have Japan representation, we have ASEAN representation, and going forward, I think I would tend to agree that if we can identify specific projects, specific areas for cooperation, and then leverage the strength of each of the partners in that, and one area or one sector that, and I think the basic theme could be based on what was also mentioned by the last speaker, on an open architecture and an open source technology. I think if we use that as the base for developing any particular project, digital identity comes to my mind straight away, but I might be having a bias on that given the fact that we are working on that. But I think if we agree on certain basic principles and then use those principles to look at areas where there is where strengths can be leveraged of the different partners, and with the objective, in fact, in Aadhaar we say our vision is ease of living of the residents. So any project which would help in ease of living for ASEAN countries, I'm sure we can find many such projects and then work backwards from there on see where the cooperation can be done.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Excellent. Ease of living, ultimately, that's important. Thank you, Dr. Gorg. May I come to Professor Murai?
Yes, I think I'd like to mention the 3 points for the kind of exact collaboration and ASEAN countries, India and the Pacific. So the first one is as what Amisa mentioned, in the kind of open open technology is going to be, kind of introducing the interoperability with the technology, which is very important, and especially the, kind of challenging activities like, open, the radio access network he mentioned about, actually the work together with the, kind of very much, approaches. I remember the happening in the Reliance Geo in India, and then bringing back to Japan, and then extending for the kind of such activities, which has been working together with the NEC and other companies. So this is introducing the open technology thing, so which is very important, and so as the data exchange is going to be a very much interesting area to collaborate for the future, because Japan is proposing for the kind of 3 years now, called the DFFT, Data Free Flow with Trust. So what kind of a trust gonna be made, and then the data exchange for the use of among the region and among the countries is going to be very important, because the as I mentioned for the first part of the presentation, then the India got the very important kind of sources of data already from the India Stack and other things, and so as the other countries. So when they exchange with the trust of the kind of health information and the business information, supply chain information, and so that's gonna need a security data format and other things. So interoperability of the data for the agriculture and other things, so which can be applied to the other regional countries. So the last one is we didn't mention very much about this, but the research and the educational network connectivity. So India got national knowledge network for the national things, and then each of the countries in the region has been working on a research and educational network connecting universities, schools, and then education for the kids, type of things, all the efforts. So this interconnectivity of this one is going to be kind of very good in terms of course, encouraging researchers, encouraging the education, and encouraging the new human resources in the region coming from this region for the contributing to the world, type of next generation of the people to be educated. So the research and the educational network collaboration is going to be the third one I would like to propose for that purpose.
Thank you very much. Last but not the least, Mr. Watanabe-san, would you like to have any concluding remarks?
Yes, well, yeah, if you're asking about the possible area of collaboration, I think one of the things it could be important is to share the best practice of both country would be quite important. And since there are many cases of best practice in Japan in digital technology, especially on 5G, I think we could benefit from sharing those best practice. And if I talk along with what I presented, Open RAN, yes, there are many potential benefits through Open RAN, like acceleration of innovation or use case diversity and cost optimization. And yeah, NEC is one of the company who is the front runner of Open RAN technology and work together with like NTT Docomo or Rakuten Mobile to build their nationwide Open RAN deployment in Japan. So those experience would be a good reference also to the Indian market. And yeah, as I also explained, Open RAN is becoming kind of trend of new network architecture, and I believe Indian operators are also quite keen to adopt the Open RAN technology in 5G era, and which is also beneficial to Indian telecom suppliers, including both hardware and software suppliers, because Open RAN allows vendor diversification. And vendor diversification brings, again, accelerated innovation to the whole Indian mobile industry, which enables more enriched use cases. So we strongly believe that Japanese company like NEC can greatly contribute to the smooth Open RAN deployment in India by leveraging its experience and system integration capability. So that's, I think, the potential area of good collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much. We are very much on time, and I don't see anything coming in the chat box. I thank for all the four speakers. They have eloquently discussed the research questions that we posed them, and they have also shared their own perspectives the way forward, or India, Japan, ASEAN cooperations. Some of the areas in which I see that we can come back to them once again with cooperation in the open source technology. Some of the areas which I think on the digital education, Professor Murai's the point, the research and education network, and others, those who suggested in the first session, inaugural sessions, the importance of digital resilience. First sessions, working sessions, talked about the economic resilience and the connectivity. Everybody emphasized the digital cooperation, the digital linkages are very important. This we take at in the session 2, in this session, the digital connectivity. So the points and the questions that we wanted to respond, everybody dealt with the good points and many takeaways. Actually, I draw from this. Well, I thank once again to all of you for coming and joining this webinar on connectivity corporations. And with that note, I end the session 2. And please be in touch, and we will be sharing the proceedings through email. And maybe we will be seeking your views if we draw any new projects for funding or support. So thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gog. Would you like to say anything, Dr. Gog?
No, I was just saying thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you once again to all of you. So thank you, and I hand over the proceedings to my colleague, Dr. Nida Rehman, for giving a vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Nida.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as we move to the close of the seminar, it is my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of ASEAN India Center at RIS to all who have helped make this event such a success. At the outset, I would like to thank His Excellency Ambassador Suzuki, Embassy of Japan, New Delhi, for his kind and esteemed presence. His address set the tone of the seminar by clearly indicating the importance of India-Japan cooperation in the areas of critical infrastructure and digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, 5G, and 6G. I wish also to record our sincere gratitude to the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, New Delhi, for their unstinted support and guidance, and Embassy of Japan, New Delhi. I sincerely thank Ambassador Mohan Kumar, Chairman RIS, for his special remarks recognizing the importance of G20 principles for a free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. My special thanks to Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Director General RIS, who is a constant source of inspiration and motivation. My heartfelt thanks to the stellar panelists for their enriching insights on vital issues like harmonization of standards, data sharing and data privacy standards, supply chain resilience, private investment, digital equity, net neutrality, and amongst others. I also extend my gratitude to the organizers, Dr. Prabir Dev, Dr. Shampa Kundu, IT team at RIS, and others involved in the seminar. With this and a kind message, we move to the end of today's seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.